My name is Chelsea. A few weeks ago, my father, who had been battling illness, passed away. I wish he could have seen his grandchildren, and that thought weighed heavily on me. I got married 5 years ago when I was 25. At my wedding, my father and I made a promise that I would tell him first when I got pregnant, but that promise remained unfulfilled. It's my one regret about my father, even though I did everything I could for him since his illness was diagnosed a year ago. I visited my parents' home frequently and accompanied my mother to the hospital. I increased the frequency of my phone calls and video chats, but I still can't shake the feeling that I could have done more. My mother, sitting next to me, reassured me. "You did your best, Chelsea." "Really?" I asked. "Yes, your father would have been satisfied," she said. At that moment, my sister Portia walked in with the lawyer. The lawyer, a man in his mid-40s, introduced himself as Sam Moe and handed me his business card. "I'm Sam Moe, the attorney. Thank you for coming. Please have a seat," he said. "Excuse me," my mother said as she guided him to a seat. Once he was settled, my sister blurted out, "I heard from this lawyer that Dad left quite an inheritance, and it's not all for you, Portia." "I know that," I said, my sister now glaring at me. I glared back. Our relationship had become strained since we learned of Dad's illness, mainly because of Portia's arrogance. Despite my attempts to reach out, she never visited our father. Of course, I may have been too harsh because I was worried about him, but her indifference was also a problem. "You're not a child, so stop being so stubborn," I said. "I'm not being stubborn," she retorted. "I live in a city. It's not easy to come out to the countryside. But you can get here in 2 hours by car," I said. "Those 2 hours are tough and costly," she shot back. "It's the money that's important to you, isn't it?" "Of course, I'm busy, so stop contacting me." With that, she stopped talking. Even though she lived far away, she could have visited occasionally. That's why our relationship soared so quickly. In the end, Portia never visited our father, and our relationship never improved. The lawyer sensed the tension and intervened. "Let's calm down, please." "I apologize," I said, and the lawyer nodded. "As I mentioned on the phone, I have your father's will here. He contacted me a few weeks before he passed away. We met at the hospital, and he wrote the will in front of me with his primary physician present," the lawyer explained. My father had arranged for his physician to contact the lawyer upon his passing. Then the lawyer reached out to us, which brings us to the present moment. He pulled out a white envelope and placed it in front of us. "This is the will," he said. I recognized my father's handwriting on the envelope. Portia seemed impatient. "Never mind that. Just tell us what's in it." "I'm busy," she snapped. "Of course," the lawyer said with a wry smile as he opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper with my father's wishes. Besides the house and land, my father's inheritance included some savings and a storage shed. We knew about the house and land, but the storage shed was a surprise. As I was pondering this, Portia angrily interrupted the lawyer. "Wait a minute. What about the farm?" "Farm?" the lawyer asked. "Yes, the farm Dad used to work on as a hobby. My father ran a business in the next town. But after turning 50, he started thinking of closing it. I want to slow down a bit. Is that okay? Back when I was in high school, I heard this idea. My sister, already in college, wasn't keen on it, but my mother and I, concerned about my father's health, agreed. "Don't worry about the money, Portia," my father reassured her. Reluctantly, she agreed. And so my father closed his company and started farming near our home. He found joy in moving his body while farming and seeing him happy. I felt reassured that we had made the right decision. My sister, however, didn't seem to share the sentiment. She had promised to return home after college but ended up getting a job near her university. Eventually, she married the CEO of an IT company she met through work. That's why father took up farming until he fell ill. My sister insists that the farm should be part of the inheritance. When the lawyer reviewed the documents, he quickly found a note stating that the farm was rented land. Rented? My sister said, disappointed. But I thought we owned a large piece of land. Indeed, the farm where my father grew vegetables was spacious, but maybe it was for the best that it was rented, considering we knew little about farming. The conversation then turned to dividing the inheritance. The house and land go to the wife, the lawyer declared. So we can divide the rest however we want. Please divide the savings and storage shed between you two, he continued. Savings mean cash, right? I'll take the cash. How much is it? My sister asked. The savings amount to about $100,000. There's no need to pay inheritance tax for this amount, the lawyer replied. Then I'll take the $100,000 in cash, my sister declared triumphantly. But I couldn't agree with such a selfish arrangement. I strongly protested against my sister. Wait a minute, I object. Why? I'm the oldest daughter, I argued. That's irrelevant. You can have the storage shed, my sister retorted, flipping through the documents. What even is that anyway? She asked the lawyer. It's the storage shed next to the farm. You'll inherit the building, the land, and its contents, the lawyer explained. My sister's eyes lit up at the mention of land. Even though she's married to the CEO of an IT company, does she still want more money? I wondered. As I pondered, the lawyer continued, but it's about 65 square feet, roughly the size of a small bedroom. A small bedroom? Yes, here are the photos, the lawyer said, placing them on the table. The exterior looked like a rundown shack, and the interior contained only basic tools, nothing of significant value. I don't want it, my sister grimaced, glancing at the photos. The shed looked ordinary, almost unremarkable. These items are sentimental, but they won't bring in any money. As I considered the situation, my sister spoke up. Fine, I'll take the cash. You can have the dirty shed. Hold on, that's not fair, I protested. You agreed to the vegetable farming. What are you complaining about now? Her response left me with little to argue. Still, I couldn't let her take all of Dad's inheritance without standing up for myself. So we're good then? My sister pressed, waiting for my answer. My mother interrupted. As long as Portia won't complain later, I have no objections. Portia quickly agreed. Of course I won't complain. So it was decided. Portia would get the cash, and I would receive the shed. My sister grinned triumphantly, but I wasn't content. I'm not satisfied. I objected immediately. Just let it go. Why are you so greedy? Portia shot back. That's not it, I argued. You're being a hassle. You care more about money than about Dad's memory. Portia's words left me speechless. Of course, family is more important than money. While money matters, it should never be more valuable than family. But before I could respond, my sister abruptly ended the conversation. In the end, my mother received the house and land, while Portia got Dad's savings. All I was left with was the shed. My sister signed a document agreeing not to dispute the inheritance division and then laughed loudly. Frustrated, I vented to my mother. Mom, why didn't you help me? I did help you, she replied. How? You let Portia take the cash. I made sure you got the shed, she said with a smile. I pouted in response, but my mother added, you might find something surprisingly good if you look closely. The next day, I collected the key from the lawyer and headed to the shed near the field. It was a 10-minute walk from home along a quiet rural road. Finally, I reached the field my father had rented for the past year. Now that he had been hospitalized, the field stood empty. I unlocked the shed and pushed the door open. Wow, it's dusty, I muttered as a cloud of dust greeted me. The shed clearly hadn't been cleaned in a while. Still, there might be something of sentimental value left by Dad, I thought, glancing around. But the interior was just a dirty shed, filled with farming tools and not much else. While the tools might have sentimental value, they were nothing extraordinary. Maybe I should just take what's inside for now. I mumbled as I continued to survey the room. That's when I noticed something strange. Huh, I muttered. The inside of the shed seemed smaller than it looked from the outside. Perhaps it was the dim lighting, but the space felt a bit more confined than I had anticipated. Could it be my imagination? I stepped outside to take a closer look around the shed, but the feeling that something was off remained. After thinking it over, I walked around to the back of the shed, where it was bordered by a thicket of trees. To my astonishment, there was another door at the back. Wait, another entrance? I gasped. From inside the shed, there had only been a solid wall, indicating the only entrance was the door I used earlier. Yet, from the back, there was another door. I was puzzled. How could there be a door at the back that wasn't visible from inside? This suggested there was a separate space accessible only from the outside. Excitement surged through me as I realized this could be one of Dad's surprises. He loved surprises and often surprised me on my birthdays. The memories brought tears to my eyes. Determined to uncover Dad's hidden surprise, I hurried back into the shed and began searching for the key to the back door. If Dad had left something special, he would have likely hidden the key somewhere in the shed. I let my instincts guide me as I began the search. I rummaged through the shed and eventually found 2 keys hidden in the handle of a shovel. Curious, I went around to the back and tried one of the keys in the door. With a click, the door opened. What could be in here? I wondered. Inside the small space, only about 3 feet wide, stood a large safe. Is this from Dad's company? I thought as I recognized the safe. It was the same one I had seen in the corner of his office when I was a child. Feeling nostalgic, I hugged the safe. This discovery brought back memories of my father and made the inheritance worthwhile. However, knowing Dad, I was sure this wasn't the final surprise. There must be more surprises, I muttered as I inserted the second key into the safe. The door creaked open with a rusty sound. What I saw inside left me speechless. The safe contained an unexpected inheritance. I quickly locked the safe again and rushed to find my mother to share the news. After explaining the situation to her, I called my husband for help moving the safe from my parents' house. It then dawned on me that the contents of the safe were likely part of my inheritance and might require me to pay inheritance tax. I decided to seek professional advice to handle the situation properly. I consulted the lawyer, who recommended I speak with a certified public accountant. With a referral from a friend, I found an accountant and left the complicated matters in their hands. A year passed, and just when I thought things had finally settled down, my sister showed up near my home. "What brings you here all of a sudden?" I asked my sister, puzzled by her unexpected visit. "Well, I had some business at our parents' house, so I stopped by," she replied vaguely, her behavior striking me as odd. It seemed unlikely that she would casually visit, especially given the tension surrounding our father's inheritance. Our relationship wasn't one that involved casual drop-ins. I couldn't shake off my suspicion as I observed her. Despite her nervous demeanor, my sister asked, "Can I come in?" I hesitated for a moment before reluctantly agreeing. Once inside, after serving some coffee, she began to fidget before finally speaking up. "Do you happen to have won the lottery or something?" she blurted out. Confused, I shook my head. "No, I didn't, and it's not bonus season for my husband either." Perplexed by her line of questioning, I asked, "What on earth are you talking about?" This seemed to trigger her, and suddenly she grew defensive. "What are you making fun of me for?" she snapped. "No, I'm not making fun of you. I just don't understand what you're talking about," I replied, trying to keep the situation calm. "Money. You have it, don't you?" "Money," she exclaimed, her voice rising with excitement. It was then that she launched into a story she had heard a few days ago. She had run into our aunt in the city by chance, and their conversation had turned to our father's passing. "I know how hard it's been for you since you lost your father. Are you doing okay?" our aunt had asked. "Yes, well, I visited him many times when he was sick. Thank you," my sister had replied. "But you must be relieved, right? Getting such a big thank you gift," our aunt had continued. "Thank you gift? Yes, your sister sent me a $500 gift card as a thank you for visiting him," our aunt had revealed. My sister had latched onto this information, convinced that I had sent the gift card. "You came into some extra money, didn't you?" my sister accused, pressing me for an answer. "Ah, so that's what this is about," I sighed, understanding her line of questioning. My reaction seemed to annoy her, and she snapped, "Why are you acting like that? Are you mocking me?" "No, not at all. It was just a thank you gift," I explained calmly. "But where did you get the money for it?" "That's what I want to know," she demanded. "From the inheritance, remember?" My sister frowned upon hearing this. "All you got was that dirty shed." "Yes, that's true, but there was a safe inside the shed. That's where the real inheritance was," I clarified. "Real inheritance?" she repeated, her interest piqued. I went on to explain the contents of the safe. Inside were valuable watches my father had collected as a hobby during his life. I admitted that I didn't know their exact worth, but I estimated the remaining savings at around $100,000. Given my father had been a successful business owner who retired early, this amount seemed modest. It led me to believe he had invested heavily in those watches. "If they're valuable, you'll have to pay inheritance tax," my mother had pointed out after seeing the contents of the safe. "What should I do, Mom?" I had asked. She paused to consider and advise, "It's best to declare everything properly. Things like this always come out in the end." "But how do I go about it?" I asked. Let's consult the lawyer we spoke to recently, she suggested. So I scheduled another meeting with the lawyer. I was informed that when you inherit valuable items, the inheritance tax is determined by their current market value. Additionally, I was advised that a certified public accountant could manage the tax situation for me, so I entrusted them with the task. After consulting with the accountant, it was determined that the watches alone were valued at a minimum of $500,000. With such high-value watches, you'll need to pay inheritance tax, the accountant advised. To cover the inheritance tax, I decided to sell some of the watches. Since I lacked expertise in valuing them, it made sense to sell the more expensive pieces to someone who could appreciate their worth. The proceeds from the sale were used to pay the inheritance tax, and I sent thank you gifts to the relatives who had supported us. Those thank you gifts were the gift cards my sister was referring to. Meanwhile, I kept sentimental items like a pocket watch my father often wore. As I shared the story with my sister, I showed her the pocket watch. This one isn't expensive, but it holds the most memories for me, I explained. Despite this, my sister's reaction was less than enthusiastic. You don't have any watches left? She asked. No, I still have some in the safe, I reassured her. It's at Mom's place. The safe is too large for my house and was the one Dad used at his company. My sister murmured, looking away and deep in thought. Her expression made me uneasy, but she soon stood up and announced, I'm leaving now that I know where the money came from. She left without further incident. Given my sister's focus on money, I expected she might demand a share of the proceeds from the watch sales. So I was relieved she left without any fuss. In my relief, I overlooked the earlier unease I felt about her demeanor. However, my relief was short-lived. Late that night, my mother called me urgently. Chelsea, it's urgent. Please come over right away. What happened, Mom? I asked, alarmed by her frantic tone. It's just really bad, she replied, her voice shaky. My husband and I rushed to my mother's house. As we approached, we noticed something alarming. The area around my parents' house was lit up in red. What's going on? I exclaimed. As we got closer, the reason became clear. Several police cars were parked outside my parents' house. I pushed through the crowd and called out to my mother. What happened, Mom? My mother told me the story. Around 9 p.m., feeling exhausted, she had already gone to bed. Shortly after, she heard unusual noises, like someone searching for something, coming from the house. Her first thought was that it was a burglar. Feeling alone and vulnerable, she decided to escape through the window. As she looked back, she saw the beam of a flashlight moving inside the house, confirming her suspicion. She ran to the neighbor's house and cried out for help, saying, There's a burglar. The neighbor immediately came outside and saw the flashlight inside my mother's house. They called the police, assuming it was a break-in. However, it turned out not to be a burglar at all. It was my sister, who had sneaked into the house to search through the safe after hearing my story. Neither my mother nor the neighbor could have known that the intruder was my sister. When the police arrived, my sister was caught off guard and attempted to flee the scene. In her panic, she tried to make a quick escape but bumped into the open door of the safe, causing the already unstable safe to topple over and trap her. So, Portia got trapped under the safe? I asked, still trying to process the events. Yes, that's what happened, my mother confirmed. She was taken to the hospital by ambulance, but she keeps saying her leg hurts. I was truly dumbfounded. What on earth was my sister thinking? After the incident, my mother and I apologized to the police officers who responded to the call, feeling bad for summoning them so late. I also called my sister's husband to inform him about what had happened. Wait, so Portia broke into her own family home and got injured? I asked. Yes, that's correct, my mother confirmed. When I spoke to my sister's husband, he expressed his frustration. He mentioned that Portia had accumulated a significant amount of debt, primarily from overspending on luxury goods. He had recently discovered this and had gotten into a heated argument with her. In the end, my sister left their house, saying she would borrow money from Mom and pay it back. It turns out my sister had already used the $100,000 she inherited to pay off her debts, still short of funds. She decided to come to me in search of more money. Learning about the contents of the safe drove her actions, ultimately leading to this mess. No wonder her husband was furious. In the end, my sister, who had fractured her leg, was hospitalized. Her husband went to the hospital with divorce papers, which left my sister in shock. "I'm not getting a divorce." "Absolutely not," she protested. But it was too late. Faced with the divorce papers, my sister had no choice but to sign them. Now she's lying in her hospital bed stunned. There's a part-time job magazine next to her, suggesting she's planning to work part-time to pay off her debts. For me, this news came as a relief. In the aftermath of all the commotion, I decided to move back to my parents' home to support my mother and help take care of the house. There was another reason behind the decision too. I had recently discovered that I was pregnant. My husband and I agreed that moving back home would be best, as my mother could help us with childcare. I wish I could have shared the news of my pregnancy with my father while he was still alive, but I'm certain he would have been happy for us. I'm looking forward to giving birth to a healthy baby and starting a new chapter in my life.